Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Ideas Edition podcast, the podcast for entrepreneurs, business owners, and insurance agents. And in this episode, I'm so thrilled because the person I have here is not only a mentor to our business here at Idea Insurance, but it's someone that I've been able to learn so much about not only building a great business, but also building a great culture and environment for a greater purpose. And his name is Troy Renfrow, and he is actually a C12 chair. So I meet with him every month to go over business strategies, to see how we can make business better. And I'm so excited because we're gonna learn from him and learn from his trajectory. So thank you so much for being here, Troy. How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure, my pleasure. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Troy. How you got started in business. Do you live in Orlando? Were you born in Orlando? Did you move? Or?
No, I was born in Louisville, Kentucky, and you'd only know that I'm really from there because I say Louisville.
Louisville.
And people from Louisville understand what I mean. But yeah, Louisville, Kentucky. I lived there until I was about 18.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. And then lived in Chattanooga for 23 years, and then we moved down here 3 weeks before the hurricanes in 2004.
Oh my God. Okay.
We brought the hurricanes. That's what we tell you.
That's the year where 3 hurricanes passed by, right?
In a matter of 3 weeks, yeah.
You know, I haven't moved to Orlando yet at the time, but I heard, and Maria, my wife, she was living here, and she told me the whole story and how they were a month without electricity. It was crazy.
It was nuts. And it was just one after the other. Bam, bam, bam.
Wow. That's nuts.
It was intense.
And you don't get that in Kentucky or Ohio.
No. We do. We got hurt. I mean, we got tornadoes, which are similar but different. So we did see some of those. And I didn't have any respect for hurricanes because tornadoes will rip the place apart until I moved down here. Wow. Now I've got respect for hurricanes. Yeah, no. Big time.
Big time. Wow. So you moved here. I mean, imagine you already had graduated, maybe college or
go
to school. Did you work for somebody, or did you just start your own business at the time?
So as far as the business background, I graduated. As soon as I graduated from high school, the next fall, I went off to college in Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
I got my undergrad in business marketing.
Wow.
And then got a minor in economics. So I'm trying to use both sides of my brain.
That's amazing. Economics and marketing.
Yeah, little different disciplines there, but I love both of them a lot. And I graduated on a Sunday afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
And on Tuesday, I started the MBA program.
Wow.
I knew that if I didn't go back immediately, I'd never go back.
You never got to go back to it.
Yeah. No doubt. So I graduated in May of 88, and I graduated with my MBA in December of 89.
Wow.
And was blessed to be able to have, a few offers for a job. And I started with a smaller company, though. I think it was because of my entrepreneurial mindset.
Okay.
And started with them, worked for them for a few years, and then I decided to do some contract work. I made a shift from marketing actually to operations because I kind of fell into it. It was actually a distribution center for an organization up in Chattanooga called Precept Ministries, which is, a lot of people know Kay Arthur as a speaker in the Christian world. It was her ministry. Mm-hmm. And got into the distribution side of their business. Only, like I said, I kind of fell into it, but I fell in love with it.
Wow.
I'm a process thinker. I'm an integrator, as the EOS model talks about. I'm an analytical person, and so I got into this realm, into the process improvement areas of the business, that kind of stuff. And so I left there after fixing their distribution center, and then I got the same job basically up at the Baptist Sunday School Board, which was, we were outputting about 2,500, I think it was 2,400 packages a day.
Wow.
Yeah, and I just loved it. And did that on contract for a few years and made a lot of money. And then I moved back to Chattanooga. That was up in Nashville. Moved back to Chattanooga. Mm-hmm. Kids were babies. Got 4 babies, by the way.
Awesome.
They're not babies anymore. But I can talk about that in a minute.
So you got busy, man.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it was good times.
Yeah.
And so moved back to Chattanooga, went to work for a company, and then I got back into the marketing field. And I joined up with a guy who was brilliant. and the PR side of things. But he didn't know how to run a business, didn't have a clue how to run a business. And so I joined up with him. We were 50-50 partners, and we began to try to grow. And so that was my real first experience at trying to grow a new firm. And we did. We were making more money than we deserved to make. We bought our own building in downtown Chattanooga.
Wow, man.
Totally gutted it and renovated it, and I love that process.
Awesome.
And then we in 2004 we decided to split up. We had about 14 employees at that time, but we were billing a lot because everything we were doing was just pure professional billing. So we weren't selling something with a markup, but we were making stupid amounts of money. Anyway, so I left that organization in 2004. My wife and I kind of looked at each other and said, where in the world do we want to go? We looked at all kinds of places, San Diego, because I've been there, it's beautiful. And we looked at Colorado, a lot of different boys' playground up in Wyoming. We looked at all kinds of places. But what we settled on was Orlando, because we said, why don't we move to where we vacation?
Oh, got it.
So and the kids were
cool.
very young at that time.
Oh, yeah.
They were 11, 9, 7, and 5.
So they probably loved it.
Oh, you aren't kidding. They were just, well, you can imagine, moving to Disney World.
I know.
We joked with them saying, you're going to be doing field trips at Disney World. Kind of joking, but they did.
They did, right?
Yeah. So anyway, that was a good move. And so we came down in 2004. And then, like I said, 3 weeks later, here comes the hurricanes.
I know. And you've been living here since then.
We have.
Wow. So, Troy, you talked a little bit about marketing, operations.
Yep.
Man, I love that you have experience on both sides of ends, because I believe that if you know both sides of the business, you can integrate better and you can do better operations, because you know what you need to fix here so that this works better.
That's right.
And the company grows.
You got it. They have to work in synergy.
Yeah. And how was that experience, like with that first company? I don't know if you did it after you moved here for a different company, but
doing both sides?
Yeah, like knowing this side, but actually working on this side to get this better. Like how was that?
So in my own business, the one I talked about in Chattanooga, we were a marketing firm. So we did marketing for our clients.
Okay.
But we also did marketing, obviously, for ourselves.
To gain clients.
And then I had to also have a great, company. And so it's juggling all those pieces. As an entrepreneur knows, you've got to juggle everything. You've got to be really good at everything, or you got to know people that are good at everything that you can afford to hire that are good at everything. But you got to have all those components working in tandem in order to really, in order to really scale your business. A lot of guys are fantastic at selling, but the old thing of selling a refrigerator to an Eskimo, they're fantastic at it, but then they get it in and it falls apart. And then they hurt their reputation.
I've seen it happen.
Yeah, of course. Happens way too often. And so, if you look at reaching back into my academic side of marketing, if you look at marketing in its core, it's made up of the 4 P's, as they call it. Product, price, promotion, and placement or distribution.
4 P's.
4 P's.
Wow.
And the one that typically everybody thinks of when they think of marketing is just the promotional side, which includes marketing, it includes PR, it includes personal selling. So it includes the thing that we always think of when we think of marketing. But technically, it's made up of all 4. And the one that most people forget about is the product, which is what you're referring to. If you don't have that product right, meaning operations and how you deliver on your product, your customer service, your billing, you can be the best company in the world, but if you mess up on an invoice to somebody, they're going to write you off. You know what I mean? We probably have all been there. I've been there. So you got to have that integrated operation working great. That's your product in order to be able to sell something to somebody.
Wow. And then after you moved here, you started working for companies and running operations for them, and VP of operations and all of these high level roles. And I think once you told me that you took one company from here to here, right, after you left, and it was, can you tell me that example again? Like how many employees did they have? What were they making? And then you went in there you fixed what you had to fix, and then this company was such a better position after that point.
Yeah. So we moved down here with the idea of taking the money that I got out of the Mariah Group, which was the marketing firm, in order to start another company.
Okay.
And we waited on land. If anybody's was here back in 2004, they know the issue with land prices. It's every 30 days they would increase by 10%.
Are you kidding me? Wow.
It's a little bit exaggerated, but the bottom line is anyway. So it took us 4.5 years to finally call it quits because we couldn't get land under contract.
Are you kidding me? Because they kept raising prices.
We'd get an LOI on something, and then they would just let it expire because they had a lot better offer. I mean, that's how bad it was. It was booming. And so at about a year into that process, my wife's looking at me and she's like, Troy, have you looked at the bank account lately? You may want to go out and get a job here, because I was so focused on getting this company going
I know.
that I wasn't bringing any income in. And so she's like, hello.
That's so funny.
And so I'm like, you're right, baby. You're right. So let me go look. And so I interviewed with a company out in Titusville, small company. We had, I think it was about 35, 36 employees at the time. And they had a product. They had this niche in the product that was, they were just booming in revenue because they were fulfilling such a need, which is that number one thing in business. But if you don't have demand for your product, nothing else matters. Yep. So they had demand, but they didn't know how to deliver on that. Wow. That's exactly what I was talking about a few minutes ago. The perfect example.
Wow.
And so that was basically a business to where we were providing transportation and interpretation or language services for work comp patients.
Oh, wow.
So all over the country, you have these people getting hurt. They needed to be able to get to their doctor's appointments. Well, really the only option was if they couldn't drive themselves, which most of them couldn't, they had to call a taxi. Then they had to try to get reimbursed. Really clunky process for the insurance companies. But legally and policy-wise, they had to be able to provide this service. Well, that's what we did. That was our specialty.
Wow.
Well,
what a niche.
It was. It still is.
Yeah.
And so back in 2004, I joined him in 2005. But when I walked in, it was chaos. I mean, there were, we were doing, I think, about 150 appointments a day across the country. And it was literally just chaos. The processes weren't working. Your driver's supposed to be there to pick them up. They never show up.
Late
They were late, a bunch of lates. And so, which it doesn't sound like much, but the bottom line is it was roughly about 4% of all the appointments were falling apart every day. Well, so all of a sudden now you're taking 150 times 4, and then you've got that crisis management around those trips that never happen. You're reaching out to the case manager, the adjuster, the patient. I mean, you're putting out fires.
Yeah, it's a problem. It's a problem. Yeah, reputation starts coming down. We might lose contracts. It just starts one thing after the next.
That's right. It just starts deteriorating, and they saw that, but they knew also they didn't have the expertise to do this.
Wow.
And so they brought me in. I interviewed with them, and it turns out that it was a perfect fit. It was really able to use the expertise that I have to be able to do process improvements in a leadership company where I needed to engage in leadership.
Yeah.
We talked about the 5 dysfunctions of a team yesterday in our C12 meeting.
Yeah.
I read that back in 2006.
Wow.
And it was a perfect timing for me because it helped me understand how to build a leadership team around me. Bottom line is, I'll fast forward. We started with 36 employees. We got things under control. We got that success ratio from 96% up to 99.5% consistently.
Wow.
And because of all that, we hit the Fortune 5000 fastest growing companies in the country list 6 years in a row.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And on top of that, we grew from 36 employees to just 5 years later, we had 250 employees. And then we got bought out. We got bought out by a company up in Jacksonville. It was by a private equity firm. And they bolted us onto them. It was the same industry, but we did this part. They did other parts to the same customer. So they bolted us on. Then they began to buy all of our competitors.
Wow.
And so it was a fun ride. So bottom line, between 2005 when I joined and 2014 when I finally left, in that 9-year stint, we went from about 150 appointments a day up to over 5,000 a day
Wow.
in all 50 states, all across the country, and we maintained that 99.5% success ratio.
That's amazing, man.
And our profit margins were low. I mean, our profit margins were skyrocketing. We were over 50%. And so that private equity firm was like,
That is,
so they wound up selling it for a bunch of money.
yeah, that's awesome that you were able to accomplish.
Oh, and it was a blast. Very stressful, very stressful, but it was a blast.
Awesome. And that you seen that and that you were able to see that growth and experience that.
Yeah.
And then talking a little bit about those traits that you saw that makes the company grow, right? Of
Yeah.
course, great operations.
Yeah.
How about on the sales and marketing side? What are some of the things or some of the tips you can give to our entrepreneurs, those agents trying to grow their business as far as sales and marketing?
Yeah, so going back to the 4 Ps and using the promotional side, sales and marketing fall underneath that. Marketing is going to be on the more side of the branding. In other words, you got to create awareness for your product. You got to let people know. It's not necessarily selling. It's basically telling them what you can do for them and listing it out. That's an important part. Now, if you're an independent contractor, it's going to be kind of hard to spend the necessary money to really create a brand. The only way you're going to do it is knocking on doors, really.
Yeah.
You got to get out there. You got to beat the streets.
Yep.
And that's where the sales component comes in.
Yeah.
When you get into the sales component, you're not really telling people at that point what you can do for them. It's not really what it's about. What you're really doing is you're asking them, what are your challenges? What are you facing? What are you afraid of? Because you're trying to engage them on a little bit of an emotional level to be able to say, what is it? What's your greatest fear that I can have, that I have something in my bag that I can solve?
Wow.
Yeah. And because at that point, if there's an emotional connection there to, I've got a need and you're able to solve it, then all of a sudden that's where you can come in and say, you're able to think through, how can I best help this person?
Yep.
They're sitting across from me and they're telling me that their greatest fear is that, my husband's he may be dead in 15 years. What am I going to do? What am I going to do for my kids? That's that emotional connection from a life insurance standpoint. And all of a sudden you're saying, well, how can I best help you? You've got a budget. You've got a certain amount that you're used to living on. How can I best serve that for you?
Wow.
And so the whole point of the sales process is you're getting in there and you're trying to uncover those needs, the things that keep them up at night. And then try to figure out how you can solve that for them.
Yeah, and that's a great point because I think a lot of times we don't ask those questions or enough questions to really understand their need is, and we just talk about what we have to offer.
Exactly. And that's so common.
Yeah.
And that puts people in that common boat. In other words, you're just another salesperson. They don't even want to see you coming. They shut the door before they see you, But if you truly are coming in and saying, how in the world can I help solve a major problem in your life?
Wow.
It's a different approach.
Yep.
And all of a sudden that trust builds too. It's more than just, I want to make money off of you. It's more of a, how can I help you, protect your livelihood? How can I help you, whatever the need is? How can I help you with health insurance? Because for crying out loud, we all need them.
Oh, yeah.
We got to stay healthy.
Yep.
Everybody needs that. And there's great programs out there that I know you guys offer. And so it's just trying to uncover those things where the needs are.
That's amazing. So thank you for sharing that. And those tips were just amazing,
Yeah.
We have some agents too that they start growing we call it book of business, right? They have 300, 500 clients. And that's when we see that the operation side of the business becomes important. Because when they're just getting started, they just need to get clients. So they just need to sell some marketing.
They're hunting,
getting good at the presentation, at closing, all those techniques, right? But then all of a sudden, you start having all these clients that you have to now service.
Yeah.
Right? And now you don't spend so much time marketing and closing new business because you have an existing clientele. And now operations becomes important because what do I need to do to maintain what I built, but also keep growing my business.
Yep.
And I feel a lot of entrepreneurs, they get stuck at maybe six-figure income and never get to the next, we call it break point
Yeah.
in that, because they haven't fixed that operation.
Yep.
In your experience, Troy, what has been the thing that you can say that they can do from an operation aspect to break through that and get to the next level?
That's a fantastic question. And let me answer it this way. If you don't mind me using my experience with C12 a little bit,
Yeah, of course. Of course.
because it kind of relates to what you're talking about. Um, After about the first 6 months of me getting out there, and I call it beating the streets, exactly what we're talking about with your agents, and trying to meet as many people as they can, even if they may not be a client, they're still trying to meet them because they may have somebody else that they can refer them to.
Exactly.
All right,
Yeah.
so you're trying to meet as many people as you can. I mean, you're filling your calendar up with new appointments. After you start getting that critical mass of contracts,
Yeah.
people that you're serving, then all of a sudden in my C12 world, after I got that, I began to shift my focus from going out there and meeting brand new clients to how can I best serve George? How can I best serve Dane and Brian and Rob? And so all of a sudden I began to shift my focus more from a new client perspective to more of a service of my existing clients. And how can I get it to where they're going to become raving fans of Troy, so that in turn they're going to go tell their friend,
Wow.
you need to join C12 because it'll make an impact on your life.
Wow.
And so I shifted my focus to having a greater impact on the guys and girls that I serve, so they'll in turn refer people. Wouldn't it be beautiful? Wouldn't it be beautiful to have a level of clients to where you don't have to go out and beat the streets anymore, but you're serving the people that you have so well,
Wow,
that they're going to start referring people to you. I got a guy who you need to talk to. If you need insurance, call my guy here. He'll take care of you.
wow.
He is going to take. And so all of a sudden you're shifting from caring for your people, trying to get new people, to caring for your people. And then all of a sudden you're going to get these referrals coming in.
Wow.
It's a game changer.
That is a great perspective. And in our business, I can right away think it's not only servicing, but you get referrals from them, but at the same time, you can also upgrade their insurance.
Yeah.
You know, you can still
just reach back out to them and take care. How you doing?
Yeah, like,
what's been going on? How can I help you? You still is $500,000 still enough? Life insurance.
Exactly.
Is this policy still serving your family for your health insurance?
That is amazing. That perspective, because by servicing, you get more business. So love that, Troy.
And that's that product that we talked about at the beginning. Is getting that product right. Because if you get a product right, I mean, everybody wants an Apple phone. Because it's a fantastic product.
Yeah,
they're gonna buy the product they want.
Awesome. So let's change gears a little bit. Obviously you had an amazing career in business. You help business. Now you have run businesses. Now as a C12 chair, you help other businesses grow, right? So what are some of the things that you have learned in the business world that have inspired you to do the things that you do on a daily basis? Sorry.
The inspiration, I think, has come from God planting it in me since I was a kid.
Oh,
let me explain that.
Yes,
please. Ever since I can remember, one of my earliest memories is I used to pull my little red wagon around me, and I would go to my neighbors. And if you're younger than about 50, you won't even understand this concept. But I would go to my neighbors and ask them, "Do you have any Coke bottles?" And they're typically throwing them away because at that time you could get reimbursed 3 cents per Coke bottle. All right.
Wow.
So I get my little red wagon full of these Coke bottles.
Wow.
3 cents a piece. I'd take them up to the store and cash them in. And I get 3 cents. I get 89 cents, buddy.
Oh my God.
As a 5 or 6 year old, I was getting rich.
You did that.
I did.
Wow.
I've always had a love for business.
Yeah.
Always. Started cutting grass early, whatever I could do to make money. And it was just inside of me. On top of that, I can remember when I was about 12 years old, I remember telling my mom, one day I want to be a business consultant. When I learned about what a business consultant was. And so I want to be a business consultant to churches and ministry.
Wow.
And basically my point was, I want to use my business knowledge for the kingdom. That's really ultimately what it was. And so that's what I mean by God planted it in me since I was a kid. Fast forward all these years, I worked for a couple of ministries, the Baptist Sunday School Board and Precept. That was a different experience, but I felt like I could make a little difference. But those were nothing compared to what I'm able to do through C12, because I can come alongside people like yourself who's got a heart for God, but also lives in this crazy world of litigation against Christians. And you're like, man, I would love to somehow use my business as a ministry to help my teammates, to pour into their lives, to do what God calls us to do for our team members, and at the same time reflect Jesus to them. They made, most of our employees, they've never seen what Jesus really is. All they hear about is in the media, and that's usually negative. They don't know what Jesus really is about. And so by him living in us, and we have an obligation to reflect that in the workforce.
Awesome. Wow.
And so I get to come alongside guys like you, and I get to help you unleash that.
Wow.
In a way that is legal, because there are legalities we have to pay attention to, but also to help you push the envelope in a way that will keep you safe from the legal side, but to be able to fulfill your heart obligation and your desire to tell, to show people what Jesus is all about. And at the same time, I'm able to share my experiences in business, which is my other passion. My passions are, my family, God, business, and ministry. It's where I live, where I love it.
Wow.
And a lot of people ask me, what do you think about being a C12 chair? I just tell them, buddy, there is. Every time I drive home from a forum, yesterday's no exception, I call my wife, and she's like, Troy, you're just like blah, 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 like a little teenage girl, just so excited about all that I've been able to see and the impact. And
wow.
And so it's, there's no greater privilege to me.
Oh my God. Wow.
I wish I would have done it 10 years ago, but I wasn't quite ready. God he needed to put me through some more stuff.
Yeah. Now you were a member first for a
was.
long time, right?
A couple of years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And as a member,
Yeah.
like what were some of the things that helped you? I mean, for me, it's been amazing in 10 months.
Yeah. For me, as far as to be able to help my members now. Yeah. From there, from being a member,
and helping your business, helping understand all these aspects of business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great question. I think I was in a group with a guy named Kevin Respris, which is one of the best people I've ever met in my life. Just such a quality and legitimate guy, who really loves the kingdom and who really wants to see it grow. And sitting in his forums, and being able to have other guys like you and other guys around that table that have got a heart for Jesus, who are going through the same things that you're going through or that I was going through, of the pressures of being an entrepreneur, facing downturns in the economy, seeing our all of a sudden we're in the red that month, and the pressure of that to make sure that you're not making enough money to pay your employees, but you don't want to let your employees go. For crying out loud, they've been loyal. They want to work here. You love them, but yet you can't afford them. Those pressures that we're under sometimes, and having guys around that actually understand what you're going through.
Wow.
That's powerful. Wow. I was in a forum the other day with one of our groups, and he was brand new, and he basically said, the most impactful thing about me being part of C12 is that I'm able to come along and come in here, and I don't have to have all the answers.
Wow.
This is a place where I feel safe. I don't have to be able to be the guy that knows everything.
Wow.
And that's so unusual as an entrepreneur. You know that. People come to you asking questions, and you're like, well, I don't want to BS you, but, this is going through your mind.
Yeah.
But you have an answer.
It's like you need to have an answer where here you feel safe. Wow.
Yeah, and you feel safe. Wow. And that's the thing that I got out of it that I wanted to pass on to my guys. And then, use the strengths and skill sets that God specifically, equipped me with in order to be able to help them as well. I know I don't have all the answers. I'm not I'm not as good as Rob Selfers in marketing, and so he brings so much knowledge and help to guys in my group, and I'm good with that. A lot of guys would be like, "Hey, I'm the chair up here," and I'm like, "No, man, let him pour into you because it takes us all,
Yeah.
you know?
And we
And
all
it's
help
beautiful."
each other. We all challenge each other. That's
Yeah, it's
amazing.
iron sharpening iron, as the
Yeah.
Bible calls it.
Yeah. The other aspect of C12, is the business side of it, right? Where for me, it's like, man, like where you been? Because it's a lot of strategies too. Like,
Yeah.
and then you see how other C12 members implemented those strategies in their business, and all of a sudden it's just boom, exploded,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
then at the same time, you're able to implement all this Christian side of the business as well, and
Yeah.
and it's just an amazing thing what you can achieve. What has been some of those books, Troy, that you have maybe read that have changed your life for the better?
Oh, wow. Man, I got so
Maybe
many.
name a few.
Well, number one is the Holy Bible.
Okay.
I'm always going to promote that one. I'm
Yeah.
always going to promote that one. It'll change your life. It really will. As far as business books, the number one book, I call it the best business book I've ever read, is called Good to Great. A guy named Jim Collins.
Great.
Good to Great. Fantastic book. It's literally, in my opinion, it's the holy scripture of business books.
Wow.
There's all kinds of other books. There's a book called Traction. If you're not the best integrator in the world, or you don't know how to make your product great, that Traction book will teach you how to get your business in a rhythm to where it will refine your product in a way that you'll be able to have a fantastic product. That was a model that we used back in the operation that I built. That book wasn't published at the time, but we kind of did that, with the same concept. And then another book I think would be fantastic to read if you've got teams that you're leading is The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team.
Yeah.
We went through that yesterday,
Yeah.
this month in C12, and it was a great refresher for me because it talks about that foundation of trust on your leadership team. And then from there, you have the ability and the permission to have healthy conflict. If you have healthy conflict in your leadership team, buddy, you're going to excel. You're going to fly, because all of a sudden you're not relying on your own input. You're allowing everybody else the freedom and the safety to have input on those decisions and strategy. And that's powerful. That's powerful. Yeah. And then all of a sudden everybody commits, and then they're going to hold each other accountable, and then you're going to see results.
We see results. Wow.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And you said you experienced that in 2006. So
yeah.
So it works.
Oh, it definitely works.
It's been around for a long time now.
Yeah, and I could tell you story after story about the healthy conflict side too.
Yeah. What has been the best advice maybe a mentor has given you in C12 or while you were building business?
Wow, that's a good question. There's been a lot of mentors in my life. As far as from business, probably the most important thing that someone said to me is that when you boil it all down, nothing really else matters unless you have demand for your product.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. If you don't have demand for your product, you could be a great salesman. You may get a few, but you're never going to really build. It all starts with demand. You got to have the demand for your product, and then you got to create a great product that will fulfill that demand.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Last question, Troy. Sure. If you had to give an advice to your 20-year-old self, what will you say to Troy?
Oh my gosh. Don't put that on me. Oh man. I think to my 20-year-old self, I would probably say get serious sooner in my life. And what I mean by that is, for the first 23 years, that's not true. I was a pretty good kid. But when I went off to college and I was a 20-year-old, it was summer camp in college. Oh my gosh. I almost got kicked out a couple of times, and it took me getting married to wake up to the realization that, oh my gosh, I've got a lot of responsibility on me, not just for me anymore. Now I've got a wife, and then, a few years later came kids, and that's when it really kicks in.
That's when it kicks in, I think.
And so the sooner you can get your head wrapped around that obligation that you've got as a person, not just a man, but men and women.
Mm.
Sooner you can get your head wrapped around that, and you could begin thinking through what 20 years down the road, 30 years down the road, you want that to look like.
Wow.
And then you can get somebody around you that can help you build that and what it's going to take to get to that.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would have advised myself. 20.
Man, I love your answer.
Yeah.
Because, man, I experienced that myself.
Yeah.
And
I think most of us do.
Yeah, because if I would have known, right, or if I would have done, or started earlier, wow.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. So, and for a lot of people too, like, and sometimes you gotta do it, but you don't realize it. So
let me give one more thing. You know, I suspect that it's very challenging to start making the 6-figure incomes and having all these clients and go into what I would call the fat phase.
Wow. Can you explain that?
Yeah, it's basically where you've got things running on autopilot and you lose sight of the business.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, you lose a couple of clients and you're like, so what? I'm still making, 125 grand a year.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, you start having them drop off 5 at a time, 10 at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong. Don't have your foot on, in 5th gear all your life, because it causes issues, but at least have it constantly moving forward.
Yeah.
A lot of people say if you're not growing, you're going to die. And I agree with that.
Wow.
If you're not growing, you're going to die.
Wow, that's so true.
You got to keep pushing. To some degree, you got to keep pushing.
That's so true. And thank you for sharing that, because I have seen that happen. Start making money, and then all of a sudden, starts happening, and then thank you for sharing.
It's easy to happen.
It's easy. It's easy to happen. Wow, Troy, thank you. Any final thoughts for our audience, man? You've been great today.
No, I don't think so. I just know where these guys are at, and just keep plugging. If you keep plugging, you keep doing the right things, it's gonna turn out.
It's gonna turn out,
especially when you have a great company like Idea Insurance behind you.
Yeah.
And this is a plug for you guys. I mean it. I know what you do, man. You provide a great product for these guys.
Yeah. Thank you, man. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it, Troy. And great interview. Thank you.
All
right. And guys, that has been all for our Ideas Edition podcast. Troy Renfrow, wealth of knowledge. Hope this helped. If it helped you, share this information with somebody else. Like and subscribe. And I'll see you at the next Ideas Edition podcast. You all take care.